I'm going to share with you one of my favorite Southern casseroles today, and I'm going to share with you 4 reasons that you should stop everything that you're doing today and go home and get the ingredients and make this casserole for dinner tonight. I'm John Woods with All Things Food. I love to cook, but I cook to love, so let's talk Ritz chicken casserole. So when you weren't looking, I actually boiled a chicken, and didn't boil it. I brought it to a boil and then simmered it. You don't want to ever boil a chicken, it gets tough. And so it's simmered in this pot, so we created a nice broth there. And what we're going to do is take this chicken, the breast, we're going to get a fork, and we're just going to try to shred it off of the bone as best we can. It's better to do this while it's still kind of hot, lukewarm. There are 4 things about this casserole you need to know. 1, it's easy, very easy. It's fast, it's delicious, but most of all, I haven't met one kid that did not like this casserole. Everyone loves it. Ritz chicken casserole. So we've taken the chicken out of here, we've deboned it. Now let me urge you to go through it and remove any excess bones and fat that may be in it. I'm pretty comfortable with that. I think I've checked it about 4 times actually here. I'm gonna put it in the bowl, and as I put it in the bowl, I'm gonna keep checking it. If you don't have time to do all this that I'm doing here, making the soup and everything, you can go out and buy Campbell's or cream, any kind of cream of chicken and cream of celery. That's great value right there. If you need something really quick, go out and do this. But if you have the time, make everything homemade. So we're gonna make a very simple soup. I'm gonna turn my stove on here. Not quite a half a stick of butter for this recipe. I can get it out of there. We'll let that melt, don't burn it, so let's keep an eye on it. Watch our heat there. And after it melts, we're going to throw in our onions. We're going to sweat those. We don't want to brown or caramelize them. And then we're also going to throw in our celery. And we're just going to let that get nice and sauteed for a minute. Our butter's heating up. I'm going to go ahead and throw those onions in. Right on top of that, I'm going to put the celery. Now, I don't put garlic in this particular recipe. It's one of the few recipes I cook that I don't put garlic in when I'm using onions and celery. And we're going to let that cook for just 1 or 2 minutes, just to get tender, maybe 3 minutes. While that's cooking, we're going to go ahead and jump a step ahead and take our Ritz crackers. Since I'm making a fairly large casserole today, I'm going to use 3 packs because I like to put my crackers on the bottom as well as on the top. I just think it just gives it a lot more flavor. So just crush those up as well as you can there. Always cut that open before you crush them. It makes it a lot easier to get them out. All right, get my crackers in there. This is melted butter. Probably that's a little more than a half a stick I'm gonna put in there. That just gives it a lot more flavor. And then I'm gonna just, again, work that butter into the crackers. You don't want these soaking in butter, just get them kind of moist. And I'm gonna set that aside, and that does develop a lot of flavor when you put it in the oven. So we're gonna set that aside. I think our vegetables are about ready here. I'm gonna go ahead and work in some flour a little bit at a time, about half of that, and work it in and make a roux, because that roux is our thickening agent. Now, a lot of times I'll use cornstarch. I just don't have any cornstarch available today because I don't use it that often. But a lot of times I'll use the cornstarch and it works really, really good. But you have to wait and do it at the very end of the process after you bring your stock to a boil. So turn that heat up a little bit. Add just a little bit more. Go ahead and add all that. That was probably a good 3 tablespoons. Don't let it turn brown, or don't let your vegetables turn brown. We're about ready there. We're about to cook the starchy taste out of the flour there. Give it another minute or 2. And what we're going to do, I have my chicken broth over here. And I'm going to use this strainer, and I'm going to strain it when it goes into there because there's some things in here in this broth I don't want to go into the soup when it's finished. So we're going to strain it in there. This is cold broth. And we're adding cold broth to a hot roux. Now, if we had a hot roux, we would add, or a cold roux, we would add that to a hot broth. So we're doing just the opposite. And you want to kind of add this quickly. Don't just kind of meander around with it when you add it. Just go ahead and get it in there and get it stirred so the starch can bloom and do what it's supposed to do. This is 1 cup. This spoon here is 1 cup. So I'm going to put that in there. very quickly come over here and do another little bit there. I don't want my roux to clump up on me, so I'm going to bring that up to a boil now. And I'm going to add this cream, about 2 cups of cream here. So we're going to let that come to a boil and let it thicken up. It's going to take a few minutes. While that's getting hot and thickening up, we're going to go ahead and take our spray and thoroughly spray this down, our casserole dish. And then I'm going to take a layer of this and put it right on the bottom. I like this on the bottom. Most people I don't see do this step right here, but I think it really makes a huge difference in the overall product, and it just comes out so much better and gives you a little more volume, as well as just a lot of good flavor down there, because that's going to cook and brown and really have a nice flavor to it. So it's there, it's nice and thick. I did a test on this and it's really, really good. Probably needs a little more salt and some pepper. We haven't done that yet. But I'll tell you a little secret. If you don't want to add salt, it's even better, is if you take some of this bouillon right there, better than bouillon, and add just a little bit to it. That's your salt right there. You don't need to add any more salt after that. And it really gives you a lot of extra flavor. So I'm going to stir that in. Find my pepper over here. Put a little bit of pepper in to taste. You can eliminate the pepper if you want to. Okay, we got that. I'm going to turn that off. Just let it stay there for a minute. And over here I have my sour cream. What I'm going to do with the sour cream is I'm going to add 1/4 cup right there to that. Okay? Stir it in a little bit. Just kind of push it down. Then I'm going to slowly add my soup. I like the way that looks. It's not too runny at all. So we're not going to use all of that soup. I still think it could use a little more salt, so I'm going to go ahead and break down and add a little kosher salt to it. Pretty happy with that. Pour it over into here. Ooh, doesn't that look absolutely fabulous? Now we're going to take our crackers and we're going to spread them on top. I like a generous amount of crackers. Throw all those in there. Spread those out. I have some grated cheese over here that I've grated myself, and we're going to put that on the top here. And the cheese is optional, of course. If you don't want cheese or like cheese, go ahead and leave it off. But I'm going to just kind of work that into the crackers there. 375, we'll come back in about 30 minutes. It'll be boiling and bubbling around the edges. If you're afraid of getting it too brown, put a piece of foil on top of it now, and then remove the foil when you're done, or just do it the opposite. Put this in now and put the foil on later if you need to. So we're going to go ahead and stick this in, and then I'll add foil later if I need to. Our Ritz chicken casserole is ready. It's been about 35 minutes, and I think it looks perfectly good. And I'm going to use 2 oven mitts because it's a heavy, hot casserole dish, and I don't want to drop it, especially now. And look at that. Holy smoke. Golden brown. That cheese has melted a little bit there on top. The crackers have crisped up really good. It's bubbling around the edges. And I'm glad we put that layer down on the bottom. I'll tell you, that just gives you a much better casserole, I think, rather than just putting it right on top. So before we cut into this and plate it up, and taste it is the most important thing, we're going to let it cool down just for a few minutes, and then we'll be ready to put it on the plate and then give it a try. Be back in a minute. This casserole is so delicious. It's one of my all-time favorites. It's delicious. It's so easy to make. It's fast, and your family will love it every time you make it. I'm John Woods, and I want you to subscribe to this channel, All Things Food. Like the channel. And remember this, I love to cook and I cook to love. I hope you do too, and I'll see you next time here on All Things Food.